Back in the 19th and early 20th centuries, the waterways ruled New York City.
The locals cheer with joy.
It was the golden age of ferries and helped make Manhattan the financial power that it is today. But around the turn of the century, new bridges and tunnels made transportation by boat less lucrative. The city stepped in to keep commuter ferries running for a few decades. But by 1955, its only remaining line was to Staten Island. But today, the municipal ferry system is attempting to stage a comeback. This is a story about the NYC Ferry, nearly a decade into its existence. What's gone right, what's gone wrong, and what's still to come. In 2017, then Mayor Bill de Blasio launched a municipal ferry system all across the city. The city pledged over $325 million to get the system up and running, and it was a big undertaking. The ferry is run by New York City's Economic Development Corporation, or EDC. Since its launch, EDC has contracted a private transportation and sightseeing company called Hornblower Group to operate the ferry.
So EDC manages a lot of property on behalf of the city. NYC Ferry is funded through rental revenues that EDC has, but also, the fares are covering a fair bit of the cost of NYC ferries.
That funding structure is pretty unique. Most other municipal ferry systems rely primarily on revenue from fares with support from state and federal funding. But it hasn't been all smooth sailing. According to EDC, it cost $88 million to operate the ferry last year, running a deficit of $61 million. That deficit is largely covered by rent that EDC collects from the properties it manages. And in 2022, the New York City Comptroller asserted that EDC had underreported its ferry-related expenditures by more than $224 million and overpaid Hornblower by tens of millions of dollars. EDC challenged the audit's conclusions and defended its spending as sound. Still, EDC says the audit was a wake-up call. In 2023, EDC selected Hornblower again for its contract under new terms. That included EDC retaining the revenues from fares, which it hadn't before. Shortly after, in 2024, Hornblower filed for bankruptcy, and it was bailed out by a private equity firm. That contract with Hornblower will last through 2028 with an option to extend. Critics of the ferry point out that there's a gap between how much a passenger pays for a ride and how much it costs the city to take them on that ride. As of 2025, the city was subsidizing each ride on the NYC Ferry by $8.33.
So our subsidy is down considerably, almost 40% from its peak. We are now the lowest cost public passenger-only ferry system in the country.
They're aiming to bring down the subsidy by another $1 by 2028. One way to do that is increase ridership. And to attract riders, they've turned to social media for some help.
Look at this one. Look at that one. Look at this one.
The ferry's videos really lean into how enjoyable it can be to ride the boat, whether you're a leisure rider or a commuter who wants to take the ferry on your way to work. The ferry's also been tapping into brand partnership opportunities. EDC and Hornblower split the revenue from those promotions, and last year, EDC brought in $300,000. In the ferry's latest survey from 2024, nearly 2/3 of riders were not using it to commute. Getting more leisure riders can bring down the subsidy while keeping costs lower for commuters. The cost of one trip on the ferry is now up to $4.50. But if you're a commuter, you can get 10 rides for $29, which actually brings the single cost of a ride down to less than a subway swipe. The ferry also recently announced changes to its route map with the goal of speeding up commutes and increasing access.
We did have a small increase in service as part of this optimization, but it is expected to drive up to 14% more riders throughout the system.
There are signs that this turnaround is working. Last year, more than 7 million people rode the ferry. That's a record for the city. But at the same time, the ferry's operating costs have been going up, in part because of rising fuel prices. The ferry is only one part of New York's public transit picture, but it is charting its own course. And in its next act, the ferry is hoping to grow, expanding to new neighborhoods, building new landings, boosting ridership, and making the ferry accessible to all New Yorkers.
Arriving at Dumbo Fulton Ferry.